English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English. I want you to imagine something real quick. You are sitting in a really crucial job interview, right?
Oh, stressful. Yeah.
Exactly. Very stressful. And you want to sound professional. You want to show that you overcame this massive challenge. So you open your mouth to describe a difficult project. And, you shouldn't just use the word but again.
Right, because you want to sound advanced.
Right. You reach for a more advanced connecting word, and suddenly your mind completely paralyzes. Like you just freeze, trying to decide in a split second between though, although, and even though.
Oh, I've seen that happen so many times. It's a classic panic moment.
It really is. So today we are curing that paralysis. We are taking a deep dive into these three specific words, kind of decoding their mechanics so you never freeze up like that again.
I love that mission because that moment of panic, it's something practically every intermediate learner experiences. And the paralysis happens because these words, well, they share the same DNA.
Right. They look almost identical.
Exactly. They look the same, they sound incredibly similar, and they all perform the exact same fundamental job in the English language. They show contrast.
Contrast, right. So they signal to the listener that two ideas are, opposite, or maybe that the second idea is a surprise based on the first one.
Yes, we could think of them as cousins, not twins, but cousins. They share a family resemblance, but they each have completely different personalities and social functions.
I like that. Cousins with different personalities. Let's look at the basic family business first, though. The simplest way to show contrast in English is just the word but.
The good old reliable but.
Right. For instance, saying, I was exhausted, but I kept working. Being exhausted usually means you stop. The surprise is that you kept going.
Exactly. It's a great word.
It is. But we reach a point in language learning where relying solely on but just feels, a bit repetitive. We want to construct sentences with a different rhythm. So we swap out but for one of our three cousins. We might say, I kept working although I was exhausted.
Yeah, and structurally, you are connecting the exact same two realities there, the fatigue and the work. Yet the moment you introduce one of these new words, the grammatical architecture of the entire sentence shifts.
Which is where the panic comes in.
Right. To avoid that interview paralysis, we first need to master where these words actually physically sit in a sentence. You actually have two distinct options.
Okay, two options. Walk us through them.
So first, you can place the connecting word at the very beginning of your thought, like, although I was nervous, I gave the presentation.
Okay, so right up front.
Yep. Or your second option, you can place it right in the middle, creating a bridge between the two clauses. I gave the presentation although I was nervous. Both are entirely correct.
Wait, so if the underlying facts remain identical and both placements are grammatically correct, I have to wonder, does it actually matter? Like, does a native speaker unconsciously prefer one over the other, or is it just totally random?
Oh, it is entirely deliberate. Yeah, it comes down to how human brains process information chronologically.
Really? How so?
Well, when you start your sentence with although, you are immediately opening a loop of anticipation in the listener's mind. You're presenting the hurdle first. Although I was nervous, forces the listener to focus heavily on the fear.
So their brain is actively waiting to hear how you resolve that tension. You're basically building suspense.
Exactly. It's mini storytelling.
So if I flip the architecture and put the connector in the middle, like, I gave the presentation although I was nervous, the listener's ear catches the triumph first.
Bingo. The action takes center stage, and the nervousness just becomes secondary context. It's a psychological tool to direct attention.
That makes so much sense, which is why mastering this gives you control over your narrative. Like, if you want someone to focus on your achievement, put the action first.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's actually test this architecture with the listeners. I want you, the listener, to pause for a second and construct a thought. Imagine you have a colleague who is incredibly introverted and shy, yet they decide to launch a public YouTube channel.
Ooh, that's a big contrast.
Right. So, listeners, mentally build that sentence right now, but force the word although to the very front to emphasize the hurdle.
Give them a second to think. You are setting up the contrast immediately.
Okay, you likely formulated something like, although she is shy, she started a YouTube channel.
Perfect. The listener immediately feels the weight of the shyness before arriving at the surprising action.
Right. Now, before we transition into the distinct personalities of these three words, there is a major structural trap we have to dismantle.
Oh, the double connector trap. Yes. This is probably the most frequent mechanical error learners make when trying to use these advanced words.
It's so common.
It really is. You cannot use but in the same sentence as although or even though.
Right. It's like pressing the gas pedal and the brake pedal in a car at the exact same time. The sentence just stalls out. The engine cannot process contradictory commands.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You cannot say, although I was tired, but I went.
Yeah, that sounds super clunky to a native ear.
Because although Indley is already doing all the heavy lifting of the contrast, adding but creates a linguistic collision. You really must pick one mechanism.
So you either say, I was tired, but I went.
Yeah.
Or you clean up the structure and say, although I was tired, I went.
Exactly. Once you use your chosen connector, the rest of the sentence simply requires a subject and a verb. Keep it clean.
Okay, so the mechanics give us the foundation, but the real mastery of English happens in the nuance. We are replacing but, which means we are actively choosing the intensity of our contrast. So let's map these three words on a scale of emotional seriousness.
Let's do it. We can start right in the middle with our neutral just-line, which is although.
Right, the middle ground.
Yeah. This word is structured, calm, and it definitely leans formal. It is the connector you use when you are dealing with facts rather than, strong feelings.
So it's a tool for an academic essay or maybe a formal debate. If you were analyzing a company's performance, you would write, although the new software has many benefits, it also presents significant security risks.
Exactly. It's analytical. You are just weighing two objective points.
Got it.
Stepping down from that formal space, we find though, just though, by itself. This is the casual, everyday alternative.
Like the cool younger cousin.
Yeah. It strips away the formality of the academic environment. It's lighter, it's faster, and it is heavily favored in relaxed spoken English.
And then at the absolute top of the intensity scale, we have even though. This is the heavyweight.
Oh yeah, heavyweight champion.
This word is reserved for situations steeped in strong emotion, high drama, or genuine difficulty. It signals to the listener that the hurdle wasn't just some minor inconvenience, it was a massive barrier.
The contrast between the neutral baseline and the heavyweight becomes incredibly obvious in interpersonal dynamics, especially in a work or career setting.
Oh, let's do a simulation. Imagine you are having coffee with a colleague who is venting about their job. They tell you the salary is excellent, but the daily tasks are just making them miserable.
Okay, poor colleague.
Right. So if you analyze their situation using our neutral baseline,
Yeah.
you might say, although the salary is good, you are not happy.
Ouch. Formulating it that way sounds like an HR representative analyzing a spreadsheet.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It is factually accurate, but it completely lacks empathy. It ignores the emotional toll of hating your job.
Yeah, if I am sitting across from a friend and I want to validate their frustration, maybe negotiate them toward quitting or finding something better, I need the heavyweight tool.
So what would you say?
I would look at them and say, even though the salary is good, your happiness matters more.
Wow. Yeah, the addition of that word even acts as an emotional amplifier. It communicates to your friend that you recognize the financial pull of the salary, but you are actively dismissing it in favor of their well-being.
It elevates the statement from a cold observation to a piece of empathetic advice.
This intensity scale is so crucial because, well, a very common phenomenon occurs once learners discovered the dramatic power of even though.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. They start overusing it.
Exactly. They start applying it to every minor inconvenience in their day. They create this bizarre cognitive dissonance by matching a heavyweight word with a totally featherweight situation.
Yes. Hearing someone say, even though I was a little sleepy, I watched another episode on TV, feels incredibly jarring to a native ear.
It sounds like they're describing a heroic battle against the forces of sleep just to watch a sitcom.
Right. It is using a sledgehammer to crack a peanut. We have to calibrate the language to the environment. Small, mundane contrasts require although or simply but.
We have to save the heavyweight connector for the moments that truly require strength.
Which naturally brings us back to our casual, everyday connector, though. While it might be lower on the emotional intensity scale, it possesses a unique grammatical exclusivity.
A superpower, really.
Yes, a superpower. It can execute a maneuver that neither of its cousins can perform.
And this maneuver is arguably the biggest secret to sounding like a highly socially intelligent native speaker. Though, has the ability to detach from the front or middle of a clause and sit comfortably at the very end of a sentence.
Yes, right at the tail end.
You can structure a thought by saying, I didn't really like the movie. The soundtrack was amazing, though.
This is a strict grammatical boundary, by the way. You cannot replace it with its cousins in that final position.
So no, although at the end.
Never. The soundtrack was amazing, although is mathematically incorrect in English. The sentence just falls apart. Only though can hang off the end like that.
The mechanics of putting it at the end are interesting, but the psychological reason behind why we do it is fascinating.
It really is. It's a behavioral buffer.
Exactly. Human beings generally want to avoid sounding overly blunt or aggressive. If someone asks for your opinion on a restaurant they recommended, and it was terrible, flatly stating the food was awful is socially abrasive.
It creates immediate friction. They liked it, you hated it.
Right. But by finding one minor positive element and attaching though to the end of it, you soften the blow of the bad news. The food was awful. The waiter was very polite, though.
It is a linguistic peace offering. It balances the negativity.
It shows the listener that you are capable of nuance, that you aren't just universally complaining. And executing this correctly requires a very specific rhythmic timing. It is almost like a comedian's timing.
Yeah, native speakers instinctively insert a micro pause right before delivering that final word.
That pause is a vital auditory cue. It signals to the listener's brain that a slight correction or a silver lining is about to be attached to the previous thought. Let's actually practice this physical delivery with our learners.
Great idea. Listening practice is key here.
Okay, I'm going to read a two-part thought. I want you, the listener, to repeat the second half out loud, paying close attention to forcing a tiny beat of silence right before the final word. Ready? Here's the scenario. I really like the restaurant.
Okay, listeners, say it with me. It was a bit expensive, though.
Feel that little hesitation. Let's try another context. You just walk out of an exam. That test was incredibly difficult.
Listeners, repeat. I think I passed, though.
That slight hesitation is the sound of polite realism. Let's see how this functions in a rapid back-and-forth dialogue. Let's simulate turning down a friend or finding common ground over something negative.
Okay, set the scene.
We are discussing a genre of film we both dislike. I will set the baseline fact. Although I absolutely hate horror movies, I sat through one last night because my friend picked it.
I completely avoid horror movies, too. The special effects are usually pretty interesting, though.
Notice how the dialogue flows there. I utilize the formal, although at the beginning, to establish my hurdle, and you employ the end of sentence, though, to offer a polite conversational counterpoint.
It demonstrates really high social intelligence and keeps the conversation smooth.
So we have dissected the mechanics, the social buffering, and the emotional weight. But we really have to address the reality of human performance under pressure.
The nerves.
Yes. What happens when a learner intellectually grasps everything we just covered, but they find themselves in a high-speed conversation with a native speaker?
The dreaded brain freeze, the cognitive overload.
Exactly. You are standing face-to-face with someone, your brain is simultaneously trying to translate vocabulary,
Right.
monitor your accent, and now access complex grammar rules to decide between front placement, middle placement, or end sentence social buffering.
It's too much. The working memory simply crashes. The desire to sound advanced actively sabotages your ability to communicate.
So what do?
When you hit that wall of public speaking anxiety or conversational panic, the absolute best strategy is to abandon the complex connectors entirely.
Really, just drop them.
Yes, fall back to the foundation. Just use but.
Ah, right. Keep it simple.
Native speakers rely heavily on short, punchy, simple sentences all the time. I was terrified, but I walked on stage. There is zero shame in that structure.
Fluency and connection should always prioritize over grammatical complexity. If searching for the perfect cousin causes a 10-second awkward silence, you have lost the interaction anyway.
Exactly. Communication beats perfection every single time.
I love that. However, when the panic subsides, when you have your footing and you intentionally want to craft a powerful narrative, that is when you deploy even though.
Oh, for sure. It is the ultimate tool for inspiring storytelling. It is the language of overcoming immense odds.
Let's give an example.
Well, when you look at historical figures or personal triumphs, the neutral connector kind of strips away the human element. Like, although he grew up in extreme poverty, he built a global business. It conveys the facts.
But if we swap the engine and use the heavyweight connector, even though he grew up in extreme poverty, he built a global business.
Yeah, the entire psychological landscape of the sentence transforms right there.
It really does. The poverty is no longer just a data point. It becomes a monumental adversary. The success is magnified by the explicit acknowledgement of how heavy the burden was.
That's the power of choosing the right intensity.
Let's put the listener's emotional radar to a practical test with a quick quiz.
Ooh, a pop quiz. I like it.
I'm going to share 2 scenarios I recently observed, and I want to see how you naturally map the contrast word to the environment. The first scenario. I was watching a documentary about a group of people who intentionally went swimming in a frozen lake. The outside temperature was minus 20 degrees.
That is freezing.
Literally. So how do we frame that reality?
Well, the contrast there is extreme. Freezing temperatures dictate that human beings should seek shelter immediately.
Right.
Choosing to plunge into ice water is a radical defiance of that expectation. So because the stakes in the extremity are so high, the only appropriate connector is the heavyweight. Even though it was minus 20 degrees, they jumped into the lake.
Perfect. The intensity of the word matches the intensity of the action. Okay, the second scenario. I was grabbing coffee with a friend yesterday, and they were showing me a new shirt they bought. They admitted they didn't really love the pattern, but it was on sale, so they purchased it anyway.
Okay, totally different vibe.
Very different. How do we articulate that in a casual setting?
Well, the stakes here are practically non-existent. It is a minor aesthetic disagreement over clothing. Using a heavyweight word like even though would sound absurd here.
Right, way too dramatic.
Because it is a relaxed, low-stakes interaction between friends, you leverage the conversational tool and place it at the end. I didn't love the pattern. I bought the shirt, though.
It perfectly captures the casual dismissal of a minor negative point. It all comes down to assessing the environment and choosing the appropriate linguistic tool from the toolbox.
To synthesize the mechanics we have unpacked today for everyone, remember that these 3 words replace but to introduce contrast. Never combine them with but in the same sentence, or the engine will stall.
And you can place them at the beginning of a thought to build anticipation, or in the middle to emphasize the action.
And most importantly, gauge the emotional weight of your environment. Use although for neutral, factual, or formal scenarios.
Rely on though for casual, everyday interactions, especially when utilizing it at the end of a sentence to soften a blunt reality.
Yep, and reserve even though for moments of high drama, significant obstacles, and inspiring storytelling.
You know, the way we structure our language profoundly impacts how the world receives our message. And I think there is a broader application here beyond just grammar. Contrast sentences are essentially a reflection of the human experience.
Oh, absolutely. We spend our entire lives navigating hurdles. We are constantly balancing negative realities against our desire to push forward. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to build an even though narrative.
I want to apply that directly to you, the listener, and your journey with the English language. Acquiring a new language as an adult is a massive cognitive hurdle. It is frustrating, it is exhausting, and it is full of setbacks.
It's hard work.
It really is. But even though the progress sometimes feels invisible day to day, your brain is actively mapping new pathways every time you listen.
That's right.
Although you might stumble over pronunciation or freeze up trying to remember a grammar rule, those moments of friction are the exact mechanism of growth.
I love that. Framing the learning process that way acknowledges the difficulty without letting it dictate the outcome. It puts the power back in the hands of the learner.
Exactly. So as you go through your week, I challenge you to look at an obstacle you are currently facing, whether it is an English exam, a difficult conversation at work, or a personal goal. Mentally construct an even though sentence around it.
Acknowledge the heavy weight of the challenge in the first half of the sentence, and then firmly state your resilient action in the second half.
What a great way to reframe things. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of contrast. Keep practicing, keep finding the right tool for the right moment, and we will see you next time.